I know.
We'll call the February 6th meeting of Block Haven City Council. Order, please rise from a moment of silence, followed by pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Councilmember Byerly. Councilmember Conklin.
Here.
Councilmember Missouri.
Here.
Councilmember Stevenson.
Here.
Councilmember Brinker.
Here.
Councilmember Moore.
Here.
Mayor Long.
Here. Approval of the minutes of the January 23rd regular.
Move approval. Second.
Motion on the floor and a second. Any further discussion? Call for the vote.
Councilmember Conklin.
Yeah.
Councilmember Missouri.
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson.
Yes.
Councilmember Brinker.
Yes.
Councilmember Morris.
Yes.
Mayor Long.
Yes. Public comments, requests.
I have none, Your Honor.
We have a use request from Roads to Peace.
Clinton County Roads to Peace is requesting the use of Triangle Park for events on April 28th, June 24th, and October 27th, the details of which are in the council packet.
Do I have a motion?
I move approval. Second.
Motion on the floor and a second. Any questions or comments? Call for the vote.
Councilmember Conklin.
Yes.
Councilmember Missouri.
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson.
Yes.
Councilmember Brinker.
Yes.
Councilmember Morris.
Yes.
Mayor Long.
Yes. Any other requests?
I have none, Your Honor.
Okay, unfinished business 5A, consideration of ordinance number 2023-01.
This is the second reading of the first ordinance of 2023 to come before City Council. This is for approving collection procedures and adopting attorney fees to be added to the amount collected in the city. Currently, the city has this ordinance, but it only applies to water, uncollected payments, and this would blanket it to be applicable across all departments and fees charged.
That's what you count.
Move ordinance 2023-01 on second reading.
I'll second.
Motion on the floor and a second. Any further discussion? Call for the vote.
Councilmember Conklin.
Yes.
Councilmember Missouri.
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson.
Yes.
Councilmember Brinker.
Yes.
Councilmember Morris.
Yes.
Mayor Long.
Yes.
Mayor,
Yes.
can that be approved again, or
No, it's adopted now.
it's now adopted?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions, Scott? Anything else, Scott?
Oh, thank you.
Okay. 5B, action regarding Sunset Pines Phase 2.
This is the third time this has come before City Council. It will be the last. I'll let the Director of Public Works speak to this a bit, but the action requested by City Council is to reject all bids.
So we learned that Suburban will not relocate or reimburse the city for the project. So like Greg said, the consideration will be to reject all bids or Sunset Pine. This will now push that phase project back 2-3 years until we have enough funding to continue.
That issue is about 270 feet
Yes.
of suburban water line that is located right where the city needs to put stormwater infrastructure. Suburban is willing to let the city pay to relocate that, but not willing to pay to relocate that out of their own coffers. The city doesn't have taxpayer dollars set aside to do that. And that's what would have to be used. We cannot use water funds because it's right, it's a different system. And you know, normally, when you're looking at utilities that are in the city's streets or adjacent to, like Comcast, Verizon, UGI, PP&L, really any time that we've needed to do improvements, I think of PPL, we did several sidewalk improvements where initially PPL had. Light poles that actually cut the sidewalk, so it was no longer 3 feet, went down to maybe 1.5 feet, 2 feet. But we requested that they move those for the public improvement project, and they willingly did so. In this scenario, just the feedback from Suburban in writing is that they will not be paying for that relocation of that line. And since the city would not use taxpayer dollars to relocate the utility for basically a public utility, you would no more approve spending the money to relocate a UGI line. So the project unfortunately will have to be postponed until some resolution to that comes about. If there is no resolution, I can't really tell you what happens then. But that portion of Sunset Pines, which is the next section up from section 1, just simply won't take place in the immediate future.
Are you gonna continue to work with Suburban to try to come to some resolution, or are we just kind of putting this aside for now and moving on to something else?
This line means relocated for the project to continue regardless, it's this year or 3 years. So we're gonna cooperate with that. Hopefully we cooperate.
All right,
I understand they were a little miffed because our engineering firm did not notify them that they needed done this year under phase 2. But there's always something in a project that somehow gets overlooked, or there's communication, and for such a low price. And for the 60 to 70 some $1,000 difference in our low bid to the next bidder means a lot to us. And it's a shame we can't come up with 25,000 or the 10 or 15 that it's really going to cost HRI to do the work. I understood that Suburban may offer that if we dug the trench, they would replace the line. Is that a way? Yep. Is that a way to get past not using water fund money to do it, but use road crews to dig the trench? Is there a way that we
We've already
could?
offered that before today, that we want to be reimbursed.
You wouldn't be reimbursed for digging the ditch, but it would get the project done
No, we,
without using water fund money. You could
I-
use.
Steve, I don't know who you heard that from, or
Okay.
sorry.
All right. well,
Councilman Stevenson, but no written proposal like that has ever been received by the city's administration.
I was just looking
And
at.
any inquiry we have made as the city's administration was met with no.
Okay, and all that's in writing, I'm sure, but this was, I'm trying to come up with an alternative, so we didn't have to rebid it. Because I know next time we're gonna take a pretty good beating
Right.
on the bid price, and the more you delay, and they're already there. And we know about mobilization, so I'm just trying to reach out, I'm sure you've exhausted all your
Right.
meetings with them and what all you can do. If they,
And to clarify the communication, we've been sending letters and emails since August of 2021. Or July 2021, when I sent my initial letter, received nothing back from Suburban.
So no one should be caught off guard, and in fact, for this particular phase. At least 2, if not 3 communications to Suburban went unanswered. Until I stepped in and pointed out that we had been waiting for both of them. A response that was sent in writing and also via email, and still have not received any response. So to say that the city did not communicate is an inaccurate statement to have been made.
good.
However, as much as we could all sit here coming up with additional solutions that may or may not work, tonight is the deadline. So you have to either adopt it tonight or reject it tonight.
Okay, so there's no, anything additional that. Okay. Well, of course, I like cooperation between agencies and everything else. They did replace a 6-inch line for us, right? Up there.
On that too, actually.
So they budget 2, but they certainly, if we notified them in August, even if it was slightly overlooked by the engineering firm. Initially, at least they caught it, and now they know about it since August. But certainly they could have budgeted sometime for spring or,
August 21,
August
Yeah.
20.
Yeah.
This last.
Yeah.
The letter was sent on July 20th, 2021.
Of 20.
Yeah.
That was the start of the project.
So what did they say the stinker was in this whole? And why don't they?
I haven't really reviewed the response.
What did the letter say? That just no, we're not doing anything.
If the city wants to pay to replace the line, the city may pay to replace the line. And they will provide an inspector from Suburban, I would assume at the city's expense, to watch the work get completed at the city's expense. That's what we received as cooperation. So again, the city has made an attempt to cooperate. The city has come up with several options. And presented those to Suburban. The response from Suburban is the only cooperation is if the city pays lock, stock and barrel for the relocation of the line, period.
So you can take a horse to suburban water, but it won't let it drink.
Yes.
Well, I'm not running for re-election, so I guess I'm in a position to say that is absolutely stupid. Suburban Water and we have this, we're serving the same customers. And it beggars belief that they could not at least give us some logical reason for not doing it, other than you're not putting your hand in my purse. Which is the, which is the wisdom spinster.
Yeah, so it has become
Everything.
quite obvious that the only thing that Suburban cares about, and understandably, is just getting the water to their customer, not the other services that their customer would love to have that would improve their quality of life. So apparently,
But that's akin to us telling them, oh, we know you're the water line, but you can't dig up our street to get to your water line.
I do. There could be a problem that the reduced flow might be an issue to Suburban. I hope they can supply their customers.
Yeah. and it's just- when-
I will say, in the history of cooperating with governments and governmental entities. Council did adopt. Borrowing in 2021 for $450,000 to replace water lines in 2 streets. In Castania Township at the request of Castania Township supervisors who would have liked those things done prior to them paving. So council responded to that in a very cooperative way, borrowed the money to do that project, and that project is basically complete at this point. So that Castania is able to get out paving. Excuse me, even as part of that, there were a couple areas where Castania was not completely pleased with the restoration work at the edges of driveways, is that correct? So the city is going to reimburse Castania for any additional improvement that needs to be done as part of that project. That's cooperative. Right, that's what the city does to its neighbors, and that's the kind of thing that the city would expect to have reciprocated from other neighbors and governmental entities. You expect that, you don't always get that, but we certainly, I would say, council does always take steps to be as cooperative as it possibly can. And that proves that.
Didn't we waive Suburban's fee for permits for excavating on our streets?
Yes, because in the spirit of cooperation, council decided to do that. This year alone would have been more than $2,200 in one dig for waived fees. That was adopted by resolution, the motion and council can also.
I would like to revisit that because we have to break even on what we do too. So in the near future, if you could resurrect that, I would like to.
You don't need a resolution to
Discuss.
rescind a resolution, you can just make a motion to rescind that resolution. But I can also make a resolution to rescind a
No,
resolution.
I just want to look at it again, so I can.
Maybe you send it so we deal with it, whatever, because then
Yeah.
if somebody wants to make that motion, they can do it at a future meeting.
I certainly can.
Would that be all right? Steve?
Sure.
It's disappointing to say the least. 'Cause,
Well-
these people have been waiting now for repeal times, we know, to fix the problems in that area. And
It's
they
not,
need to be
dis-
aware that we're doing our best. We're not willing to take a step that's unprecedented and create problems for us down the road with other utilities. To do this, and that their supplier of water is willing to hold it all.
It's not disappointing, Mr. Mayor. It is an abnegation of the responsibilities of a utility to look to the best interests of their customers. It is. I am speechless. Why don't we just move to reject all bids, and we'll do this when Suburban Water pulls itself into the 21st century.
Okay, so you have a motion to reject all bids, correct? I have a motion. Do I have a second for that?
Second.
I have a second for the discussion, yes.
I understand that the residents of Sunset Pines submitted a petition to Suburban asking them to get that line done so the project, the phase can move on. The construction bidding and construction phase. So evidently they ignored the petition from their users too.
Well, the correspondence we got, they don't have an official board meeting till tomorrow, but the correspondence we received today was from an employee of Suburban who said that they had met with the board today.
They had a special meeting and they hashed it out. Supposed to discuss that. We could do the work with their employees and inspector, but we would not be reimbursed for the work.
So that's what their work session resulted in today.
Do we send our correspondence to an employee or to the board? Or to both? Do we CC both?
No, we send them to their manager, Greg Mays. And then it would be incumbent on him on sharing it with the board. From time to time, depending on the correspondence, I also will email it to the chair of the board, Jack Peters.
I'd make sure in the future we cover all of our bases and not only email or correspond with the staff or employee manager, but also the board chairman or the board itself, board secretary, so that they can't say they weren't notified. It's just a suggestion. It sounds like it's not all getting there, or it's all not coming back until the very end.
And both the director of public works and I have met with a board member last week on this very topic, shared a variety of information and correspondence with that board member.
Any other discussion? I have a motion on the floor and a second. Call for the vote.
Councilmember Conklin,
Yes.
Councilmember Missouri,
Yes,
Councilmember Stevenson,
Regrettably, yes.
Councilmember Bricker,
Yes.
Councilmember Morris,
Show credit, but yes.
Mayor Long.
Yes. I'm sorry, Sunset Pines. We have any other unfinished business?
I have none, Your Honor.
Okay, new business, 6A, consideration of resolution number 2023-04.
The Pennsylvania Liquor Control Board enables for the city's noise ordinance to take precedent over the Liquor Control Board's enforcement of noise from PLCB licensed entities. This was first applied for by the city in 2019, then renewed in 2020 with an expiration date of July 31st of 2023. If council is interested in renewing that exemption again, then this resolution would need to be adopted so that it can be provided to the Pennsylvania Liquor Control Board for their consideration at their next board meeting as to whether or not they would approve the continuation of this. I will say that since the city was given permission in 2021 for the 3-year term, the city has experienced 232 noise complaints, which were logged in and investigated. Of those, 24 were at local establishments licensed by the Liquor Control Board.
What's the wish of council?
Want to remove, want to move the renewal of the resolution 2023-04.
Motion floor and a second. Any further questions or discussion?
Well, this, if memory serves, when we applied for this the first time, there was a public hearing.
Correct.
will there need to be a public hearing again?
I believe so. The last public hearing was held via Zoom because it happened during the pandemic. But the letter that is sent to the Liquor Control Board does require that you list a location for a public hearing to be held and the local newspaper of record. So that letter does include using council chambers for that hearing, and that the advertisement should appear in the Lock Haven Express. The Liquor Control Board, when they determine when that hearing would be, would advertise it there.
And just so I'm clear. The exemption that we currently have covered 21, 22, and 23.
2021 and ends July 31st, 2023.
So we're good for half a year,
Correct.
which would include the prom that we're gonna hold in the parking lot.
Indeed, although that is not licensed by the Liquor Control Board.
They're high school students.
This is high school in the United States of America, not a big.
All right,
Any other questions, Richard?
just one. Is there a corrected version of this resolution which will be presented to now?
What is incorrect in it?
There is a space between loud and speaker, which is different from a loudspeaker. I think you would agree.
Coming from the loudspeaker.
Yeah. And in this.
It's funny because that's what we were talking about.
I get it now.
And then in the second line of the resolution paragraph, we've got Herbie, not nearby.
Oh.
You know, after Richard's done serving, can we appoint him official,
Valuable.
He did say he will continue to attend. so.
Yeah, but only from the cheap seats.
I can assure you get a packet.
Oh, really?
We'll just call you a member of the press.
I really appreciate it.
anything else, Richard?
Nope.
Okay, so I have a motion on the floor in a second. If there's no other discussion, we'll call for the vote.
Councilmember Conklin,
Yes.
Councilmember Missouri,
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson,
Yes.
Councilmember Brinker.
Yes.
Councilmember Morris,
Yes.
Mayor Long.
Yes. 6B, appointments and acceptance of resignations of fire auxiliary drivers.
The, excuse me, City of Lock Haven Fire Department Advisory Board has presented to council for their consideration the appointment of 6 individuals to the auxiliary driver list, including Ronald Young Jr., David Braun, Sean Kleckner, Brian Strauss, Jacob Lindsay, and Isaac Pauley, as well as requested that council accept the resignations of Trevor Reeder, Dan Ake, and Derek Hoover from the auxiliary list.
Will you be sending thank you to those who served us?
Of course.
What's in the push council?
I move approval.
Second.
Motion for a second, further discussion, anyone?
Just a clarification, nowhere does it say that Trevor Reeder, Dan Akey, and Derek Hoover resigned, though.
Right,
So
We really take the recommendation of the company to the advisory board, and then once passed there, we're just ratifying what they've already decided. If they didn't want those 3 to be a driver, they would drop them from a list on activity, lack of training. It could be a list, there's a big list. If
Okay.
you don't comply, you're on.
anything else? Call for the vote.
Councilmember Conklin,
yes.
Councilmember Missouri,
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson.
Yep.
Councilmember Brinker,
Yes.
Councilmember Morris,
Yes.
Mayor Long.
Yes. 6C, notice of the 2022 real estate tax lien.
This is for council's information of the $2.7 million in real estate tax billed by the city this year. Only $210,538 remained unpaid at face value at the end of the year. That results in a collection rate this year of 93%.
nice, actually.
Yes.
Really normal. Okay, 6D.
This is notice of the Comcast franchise agreement payment for the final quarter of 2022, and that's just so that it appears in the minutes that the city received the $26,969.06. A lot of citizens.
6E.
The city is obligated every year to submit the survey of financial condition to the Department of Community and Economic Development. In part, this helps the departments at DCED determine what entities are potentially in financial distress. That's been completed and provided to DCED and is there for council's review.
It's also required to get our liquid fuels money.
It is. In fact, it's required by liquid fuels before the due date. So,
Or you don't get your liquid
Or you
fuels money,
don't
at
get
least
your-
not on time. Anything else under new business?
that's all I have, Your Honor.
FYI reports, stories.
A through C are really there for your information. Well, all of them really. I would say that when it comes to the submission of voter participation, the city of Easton every year gives an award as part of the Pennsylvania Municipal League to the entity with the highest voter turnout previous year. The city's voter participation for the November 22 election was 49%. And then the city also received a letter from the Department of Health encouraging it to add fluoride to its drinking water. The city did respond, and the letter is included, that fluoride is provided as permitted by the state, and that quantity is tested 365 days a year. And the levels in 2022 were within the amount that is permitted. So just to reassure the state that the city does in fact fluoride its water, fluoridation.
Do we have anything else for your report now?
Just a heads up that for the next 2 weeks, we will be using the street sweeper. We're not sweeping, we're not going back full time, we're just testing out. New part of it. So if you see it out there, we're starting. It's for making sure it's gonna work for this year.
We've been a bit spoiled the last few years. We haven't had to use anti-skid. But this year with a couple significant. Not only ice and snow, but there were several days where salt just absolutely would not be working. So you will see debris on the side of the road. So that'll take extra cleanup this spring too, as people think about that and try to be a little patient. That the first time the sweeper goes through, it won't look pristine. May take 3 or 4 passes.
Yeah. Anything else? You want to counsel on anything? Are we having the next meeting on the 20th?
The rules for cancellation is just 24 hours in advance. And I have had a request to cancel the next meeting. It does take place on a federal holiday, but also a day that the city is closed. And so at this point, I should know basically this week whether or not a meeting would be necessary. At this point, we have no further business to bring before you until March, when you will review an amendment to the general fund budget. But we have a lot of irons in the fire, but fortunately, council was very busy last year making a lot of motions for adoption. So that's what put those things into play this year. They were trying to cool our jets. Just get to the projects you want us to accomplish.
Right.
But very nice feedback too on that topic on Fallon Alley over the last couple weeks. We did have lunch with Cindy Coombs, who is Glenn Thompson's district rep for Cameron and Clinton counties. The city planner and I were able to have lunch with her last week. She stopped in Fallon Alley, loved it, stopped in a couple stores. And so very nice to have representation again, that's very interested in coming and visiting our local community and our local stores.
So at this point still is, but it may not happen during the holiday, but not enough to do it.
Correct. Unless something absolutely emergent and pressing comes, but I don't foresee that happening.
Okay. All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
You do.
Oh, go ahead.
So the next meeting,
Is the potentially the
the
20th.
20th. Can I state that it will likely not occur or,
I wouldn't say that yet,
okay,
but you will be notified if it is.
I'll just keep it out.
Yep.
Okay,
To the best of my knowledge, there's only one request out there, and that is a request for something that isn't going to take place until June.
There's plenty of time to deal with. Right, okay. Anything else, Scott?
no, thanks.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Well, you did. What did you do?
Well, I was stopping you because we had a question I wanted to be able to address on the record.
He did not catch it.
You did.
We are adjourned. Thank you.